Hi, welcome to the Bari Nation podcast, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. I'm April.
And I'm Jason.
And today, the one and only Jeannie's joining us. Hi, Fred.
Hi.
We're so excited to welcome you back to the podcast. Not only are you an expert in Bari Nation for all things related to our nutrition and metabolic wellness, but we absolutely love the support that you give people on Instagram just to support the community. We are very excited to talk to you today about something that we all struggle with, which is building a balanced bariatric meal. Oh my God, it's like an act of God. Yeah, right? It can be hard. So before we dive into the conversation though, we would love to just give you the floor, Jeanie, and just will you introduce yourself to people who maybe don't follow you or who've never met you before?
Sure. So my name is Jeanie Boyer. I've been a registered dietitian for 18 years and a fairly new certification in the world of nutrition or dietetics is a certified specialist in obesity and weight management. So that's kind of exciting. And I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and love being outside until about August. And I love bariatrics. Like my story goes that I hated working in hospitals, and there was the opportunity to volunteer and teach the bariatric class. And I was like, sign me up. And I loved it. I'm like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. So that's what I do. I love it. And then I work in a clinic part-time, and then I work with patients. Okay.
Boom. I really want to know, will you tell us more about this like extra special certification that you have that deals specifically with obesity?
Yeah. So it's under the accreditation for dietitians formed it. Although other people can get the certification, like physician's assistants or nurse practitioners. You have to work, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, like so many thousands of hours within weight management to then apply for the exam. And then you have to take the exam to get certified. And it's a 5-year cycle. So I'll take it again in a few years. Yeah.
Whoa, that's intense.
Yeah. I've wanted there to be something for years because there's the dietitians that work with pediatrics or sports medicine, like they have all these certifications, and I'm like, but wait, like we need one. So yeah.
Well, and I mean, I'm only 2.5 years post-op, Jason, you're 2 years, but there is a very large difference, right? There's a big difference between, I think, just general nutrition and then this, even though it's the same, it's not. There's very specific things that as bariatric patients pre and post-op, we need to focus on and learn and know and be aware of and practice. And that really takes the guidance of somebody that is walking that journey with us. Mm-hmm. And you have you're like what's that movie with Liam Neeson, right? I have a set of skills.
Very particular set of skills.
Yeah. That's what I was looking for. You're like the Liam Neeson of bariatrics. Have a very particular set of skills that can help you with that.
Right.
Oh, awesome. Well, so you are definitely the expert then that we want to connect with today to talk about building a balanced bariatric meal. And really the 3 big areas that we want to focus on is, what does balance mean when it comes to building this bariatric meal? Why is it important? And then where do we start? And really that where do we start lens, we want to understand it from kind of 2 facets. Like, okay, if we're starting in the pre-op diet, if we're starting at day 1 when we were waking up from the hospital, like where can we start? And then really let's take a step back and go, what if we're years post-op and we're experiencing regain, right? Or those old habits are coming back, or we're not feeling well. Where do you recommend that we start, right? Because there's really 2 big groups in our community, right? Those very, very beginners, and then people like us that are a couple years out or more and really struggling with building a balanced meal.
Yeah.
All right, my friends, well, let's do it. Let's just dive in.
Okay.
So before we even get to the first question, Jason, I want to ask you, how have you been doing building a balanced bariatric meal?
Horrible. To be honest, if we're just really going to get down to it, just not having the best time whatsoever. I find more often than not my issue will be um, I'm still more protein heavy, even though I'm 2 years out and don't really have to do that anymore. And I know that I need to be branching out and my plate needs to look more complete. And I get to a point where I've always been picky when it comes to exactly what I will eat. And I know that I need to kind of change that a little bit. And I'm so muddy on what exactly I can eat versus what I can't eat versus now that we're just starting to realize over these past few episodes we've recorded, carbs aren't the devil when it comes to post-op. And we actually can have we need to introduce a little bit of it in and how the complex carbs and all that works. Like I'm just completely inept when it comes to all that because I've never lived a healthy life. I don't know what any of that means. I just knew that it was the green stuff I didn't want to touch beforehand because it wasn't a burger. And, it just took up precious space in my guts for when I wanted to fill it with meat and cheese and potatoes before. So now that I'm post-op and trying to, get into the healthier scheme of things, I don't have regular contact with my program anymore at 2 years out or my dietitian or any of that. So I got the first initial, just eat your protein and you'll be fine. And now that I'm out here kind of floating along like Rose on the wooden door from the Titanic, trying to figure out exactly what the hell I need to do to, to get there. Because I know that it's possible because I've seen people that are having a better time than I am post-op that are farther out, even farther out than I am. So I know it's possible. I just need to find the map to get there.
And you bring up a really good point. You and I both have been struggling in this area. And this month especially has really opened our eyes to what bariatric nutrition and eating should be, not probably, right? What it needs to be. And I've been noticing recently that my meals are, I nail one macro, which is normally protein, and then either my carbs or my fats are lacking. And I've really been paying attention to the carbohydrates that I'm taking in. And I'm discovering that it's a lot of simple carbohydrates. It's a lot of yogurts, it's a lot of cheeses, right? Which are great for other, macro and micronutrients, but it's not a holistic view. And I've been tracking as well. And I'm realizing that I am busting out of my macro goals often, right? It's not every day, but I'm busting out more than I'm staying within it. And I really need to flip that. And I think that I'm getting there. I'm feeling hungrier throughout the day, or I'm just not feeling as satisfied because I'm heavy loading on just one macro. I'm not being balanced in what I'm taking in. And Jeanie, I see you shaking your head. So we must be on the right track.
Well, I have two thoughts, and I might need help getting back to my second one. But the first is I really think, in the clinic setting with dietitians and surgeons, it's hard. Like, I think we have a little bit, would do you a disservice because of our time limitations. And we're like, okay, here's surgery. You're going to get home. I want you to do this. I want you to be protein fluid, protein fluid, protein fluid. Bye. And it's not because we don't care. It's just the time. So Jason, your example, like 2 years later, all you remember is like, oh yeah, protein. And we don't get to that, like, maintain real life diet, so it makes sense that it's a struggle as time goes by to figure out what is balance, and what's balanced for me as a bariatric patient. Yeah.
Well, and really, I guess what just dawned on me is you're so right? When we're fresh out of surgery, protein and hydration, that has to be the only thing that we focus on. And then when we get to the point where we have the capacity to really think critically about what we're eating and why we're eating it and learn about macro and micronutrition, we've probably passed the point with our insurance that our insurance would even cover visits with a nutritionist, right? So it's like when we actually need that education the most, we've kind of been, as you so definitely said, right? Like we are floating on the door,
Yeah.
and there's nobody there to help us.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of aged out of the program, so to speak. But I mean, like the last thing I have from the bariatric Bible I took home was the whole 1,200 calorie and, get your 64 ounces of fluids in and call it good. But I know at 2 years out, the way I am, like my body, my build, my activity level, all that, it's going to require more than 1,200 grams of protein. I'll be running on a serious deficit and probably ready to pass out a whole lot if I stick to 1,200 grams of protein at this
calories.
point. And so that's kind of the thing. It's like you get to a point where a lot of the stuff that all we have to go on, it's just not gonna it's not gonna compute well with where we're at.
Mhm.
No.
Mhm.
Wow. Jeannie, do you remember what your second point was that you want to make?
No. I was just sitting here, I need a pencil. I think I struggle with this a lot, with how to word this in the best way, but like 2 years, 5 years, 15 years from surgery, it's like you're normal. And that's the word I'm like, that's not the right word, but like you should and could eat like anyone else that didn't have surgery of about your same size. So it's not quite volume wise, but like,
I was going to say, right? I don't,
yeah.
because I've often wondered this. I wonder now that I'm almost 3 years post-op, I think to myself, I wonder if I'm actually eating the same amount of food that somebody that didn't struggle with obesity with always eats. Like I have often wondered that question to myself. And we've never asked a bariatric surgeon just about that,
Right.
that question. That would be a really great question that we can follow up with Dr. Joe, or we've got lots of people in our
Yeah.
universe that we can ask. But I do wonder that sometimes, because I kind of feel like, okay, well, I'm a similar size to my friends, or like to my sister, who, we grew up the same, so I always compare it to that. And I sometimes think, well, but I'm still eating, I think, less than them. And then like we can go out to dinner and it's like, oh, I know I'm eating way less. But
Oh, right.
what I'm not seeing is I might be eating less at one meal, but are we actually eating the same amount of food throughout the day, right? Because I'm eating more meals, right, in these smaller chunks, whereas my friends might be just having 3 meals of a larger capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's often a question that's come across in my mind. But what I do keep coming back to is that I really feel like I should be eating as balanced as they are.
Yeah. Right. Like early on, you're restricted in capacity, but also tolerance. Like you can't tolerate this big variety. You're a little sensitive. But 2 years later, you can eat some broccoli. You can eat a raw carrot. Like it's not going to be a problem. So I think when I think about balance and the whole bariatric course, the definition changes at the beginning, it's changing every week, every month. And then when you get to your maintenance weight, then we can talk about balance that's going to stay the same. Like,
Yes.
and I just today, actually, I was talking to somebody about that's pre-op, and I was like, okay, here's my little plate I drew. Half of it is vegetables, a quarter over here is starch, a quarter over here is protein. And I had this little 3-ounce fake steak. And I was like, look, here's our protein. And I was like, okay, now here's the little plate for after surgery. It's still split. Like there's a half and there's a quarter and a quarter, but we took that protein and put it in the half. This is hard to do on a podcast or but so you have a smaller plate that is now not half vegetables, it's half protein.
Yeah.
And then you've got those 2 quarters that could be your starch and your vegetable.
Okay. So when you talk about, when we hear other dietitians talking about building a balanced bariatric meal, what you are talking about is getting kind of all 3 of those macronutrients on the plate, right? So protein, fats, and carbs.
Yep.
Okay. And by balance, we don't mean like an even balance, because what you are describing is, right, protein is half, and then you've got 25% of the other one. So
Yep.
that in essence is, if you are in maintenance, that is a balanced bariatric meal, 50, 25, 25.
Yeah. I think that is the simplest way to, like if you're eating out or you're at a friend's house or you're at a party, like that's an easy visual to take with you. Just be like, okay, I'm getting the small plate. Half of it is my protein, a little bit of starch, a little bit of vegetable, or a little bit of fruit, a little bit of something else. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to make it more either more freedom or more confusion. I also think you can look at balance like across your week, like, or across the day. So you might not have this perfect little breakfast and perfect lunch and a perfect dinner and a nice little snack. You might be running out the door and breakfast is a protein drink. And then your snack is crackers, because it's just what it has to be. But then your dinner has got a little more protein, a little more fat. So your day was balanced. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because I know for myself in the last week, the week prior to this week, I did the whole week's worth of chicken thighs, broccoli, and those types of things, and I can go through those. And that week doing that, because I was running a test to see, so I did the full week with the chicken thighs and the broccoli and all that stuff, and I didn't snack hardly at all. Like there was no even in between, like just in between protein bar kind of things, like none of that, like none of it. I just didn't do it. I didn't care to do it. I was cool. Like I was lit because I had enough, I would eat the protein. I stayed protein conscious first and then went after the broccoli when I was done with the chicken thigh, and would eat enough that I knew I was done. But noticing now that the chicken thighs are gone and I'm kind of piecemealing together proteins here and there, and it's just the protein. Now I'm dying. I'm like, oh Jesus, like I'm got my hands in everything. Every time I turn around, I'm trying to grab a hold of something, whether it's cheese, whether it's a couple slices of deli meat or pepperoni or whatever it is, to try to kind of balance it out. And it's made a tremendous difference. So yeah.
Wow.
I love this example because I also think when we talk about the early stages and this whole protein heavy, but your example, Jason, was also like you have your chicken thighs, your broccoli, you probably had some butter or oil, maybe you had roasted potatoes, something. Our bodies like all those things, like they do different things, we need them all. And so when one is missing, you might not think to yourself, oh, I miss some potatoes, but you're probably like looking in every cabinet and thinking about the snack drawer and like wondering who has some candy in their office because you're like, oh, I needed that other element to that meal. So a lot of times I think when people get grazy or like munchy, snacky, it's probably because the meal they had earlier wasn't enough balance to satisfy everything.
Yep, agreed. And I've been noticing the same thing too, Jason, this week. I've been, like I said, I've been tracking anything. I'm on my phone. I'm looking at my day today and even yesterday. And the days where I feel the most full, I'm actually getting in more fats and it's more of a balance. And my balance is kind of like that 30-30-30. Like when I'm looking at this, when I look back to yesterday, I was just full constantly. I would get hungry and then I would eat and then I'd be full for a very long time. And it's fat, it's almost more fat and then carbs and then protein. And then if I go back on the days when those were off, I was having different hunger sensations because I was really writing down what I was going through. And it amazes me the power of just doing something as simple as this, right? And this really hasn't been taking me a whole bunch of extra time, but I'm really starting to realize why my weight is creeping up at the scale is because even though I do have a balance, this balance it's skewing one way or the other, or I just keep going way over my caloric goals. And what just popped into my head, Jeanie, when you said that example about the chicken and the broccoli, and then you said, and you probably made it with butter. I was like, oh my gosh, if I was looking at a plate, right, and I had my protein at the top, it was 50%, and then I just had the broccoli there, my brain would have never remembered or would have never recognized that I actually already have fat here on my plate, and it's in the form of the butter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So I would have been looking to fill that side with something else because it's empty. But no. I actually use the fat on the butter and maybe the chicken. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So right there would be a way that my brain would say, oh no, like it would talk me into eating more because that part of my plate is empty. But it's not. I mean, it's like, oh my God, like all of these things that you would never realize or think about if you're not engaged in the work.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, And it stayed good for me as far as the broccoli goes, for me not wanting to do anything different, because eating broccoli to me, even 2 years out, it feels like I ate a couch cushion. Like it's just sitting there heavy as hell. Like it's like it's rough. But
Uh,
it's good though, because I used to barely only be able to eat just the very top off of off of broccoli, you know, a little floret of it. And now I can eat, you know, probably I can eat a good, you know, 5 or 6 of them before it really starts to bother me. So, but doing that kept me so, you know, full to a point. Like I said, I didn't stray from what I knew I needed to be doing. And, you know, to go a step even further than that, I felt better just overall, just my feeling. I was less groggy, less cloudy, less like there was a lot of benefits to that week of me really drilling down on what I was putting in my body. You know, staying with the eggs in the morning, you know, protein shake first off in the morning, eggs for breakfast later on in kind of mid morning, and then doing the chicken thigh and broccoli for lunch, chicken thigh and broccoli for dinner. And it just, I mean, I felt a lot better than I have been when I strayed off of that. So
So, Jason, what do you think is what would prevent what would stop you from doing that, from just repeating what you found this week moving forward? Like, do you think that's going to be a challenge for you, or
I
not?
don't think now it's going to be a challenge for me, because thinking about it and really being deliberate with kind of what, yeah, kind of all goes back to the store trips. You know, you think about it and like, well, I've been doing, you know, this for so long. Now I want to branch out. I want to try some of this, and I want to do a little bit of that. What what I really need to get back to is thinking about, yes, chicken thighs every single day may be a little boring, but it doesn't have to just be chicken thighs. It can be chicken thighs done, like I can do some of them in the air fryer, I can do some of them in the oven, I can do some on the grill, I can do some on the smoker. Then I need to flip that, and you guys also know that I love steak, so I need to, you know, incorporate more steak in my life, because, you know, red meat doesn't bother my stomach at all. So I think I'm really going to this weekend go and stock up on both of those things and just continue to meal prep the way that I had done, because I had taken a bunch of broccoli and made it up the only way that it's edible to me. So I mixed it up that way, so I had enough of it, so I never got to a point where I was like, oh well, I don't have broccoli, so now I'm just gonna like do whatever. Because to me, I'm one of those I'm a person of just of a habit, a creature comfort. Like I just do it. Like if it's there, I will continue to repeat the pattern. So where I fail myself is I will let it run out almost intentionally. So then I can be like, oh, wow, what else we got going on over here? Because then, of course, I'm kind of derailing myself and off in the weeds trying to find something, you know, someplace I don't need to be. So I, you know, I'm kind of the captain of my own ship here, where I need to put, you know, keep myself in the right position so that I don't do those things.
Mhm.
I wrote down 2 things because I remember. So, this is a working analogy metaphor, but I think it's going to work great. So when we talk about balance, I was like, what, you know, like I think a teeter totter or like even a vehicle needs to be well balanced to move forward. So then I thought grocery carts, and you get those grocery carts with the like wonky wheel, and you can't, they're like, so if everything is balanced, the grocery cart's going straight, it's going to where you want it to go. But when something's a little off balance, you're like fighting it because it's trying to run into the cookie section. And so it's like like you, and you're just, it's veering off like without you even, you're not headed that direction, but it's just going to go that way. So I think I'm still working it out, but I think it's a good visual of like the benefit of balance in keeping you on track. And how if it's not balanced, it makes everything harder to stay on that right track, because you're fighting against that wonky
Oh my
wheel.
God, dude, I feel that in my soul. It's so true. It is so true. Right. And sometimes and it's funny you should say that, because I was really, as you were saying this, I was like, oh my God, sometimes I get one of those carts, right? I'm at the grocery store and I'm like, forget this. I will literally go and get a new cart and I move my groceries just so I can not fight against it. And in the back of my brain, I was thinking like, why am I fighting against this diet or this way that's eating that is constantly, you're giving me, it's a pain in my ass. I just need to go get a new cart.
Mm.
Right. And for me, that is just letting go of what I have been eating, acknowledging this is not working. This is not serving me. This is not working. I need a different cart. I need to figure this out. Right. And as we oftentimes say here, sometimes we have to slow down so we can go fast. Sometimes I need to take the time to go get a new cart and figure out a different way of doing this so that I can go faster once again in my life. And that is exactly what we are trying to do. Jason and I both, and I think many of us in this community are fighting that cart with that damn wheel. Let's get a new cart, friends.
Yeah.
Let's get a new cart.
Mhm.
And we can do that.
It's also, it kind of goes back to one of the things that you had said about that all. When it comes down to what you're going to do for yourself, you've got to go for what you want most over what you want right now. And for myself, it's just as easy for me to grab a chicken thigh and a spoonful of broccoli and put it on a plate and put it in the microwave for 30 seconds as it is for me to grab a handful of chips, a handful of cookies, a handful of crackers, put them in a bowl, because it's the same number of steps that you're going to do. You still have to get a bowl. You still got to get the box. You got to pour it. You got to do all. So, I mean, it's the same amount of steps if you really think about it, because guess what? The pantry that holds the crackers and the chips is the same damn distance, just completely on the opposite side of where the bowls are, where everything, and I passed the fridge to get to both of the cabinets. So telling myself that that's not possible or it's going to take longer is ridiculous. So that's why I have to have it all ready and prepped. So legit, all I have to do is open the box, open the container, grab one, done. Like all the same steps, because to me, it takes away the laziness of saying that, oh, it's easy. It's easier to do it. It's easy, just as easier to grab a protein bar than it is to do, that I can't continue to live like that. And another thing that, April, you and I have talked about routinely is this stuff's not going anywhere. They're not going to stop making pizza tomorrow. They're not going to stop making cookies. Oreo's not going to go out of business. They've been around for hundreds of years. Like they're still going to make the same mediocre cookies.
Versions.
Exactly. Right. And that's the thing. It's like when you think about those things, like we thought before, pre-op, like, oh, I'll never be able to have this again. So let me just go through all of it right now. Well, now you're finding out post-op, or at least I am, that they're still there. Like all the same things that I wanted. Like I said, I have no aversions to anything. Unfortunately, I can eat whatever the hell I want. Now, should I? No, I should not. And I need to make I need to be more in tune with realizing that if I choose to somewhere down the line, it's always available, but it doesn't need to be today, because today turns to tomorrow, turns to the next day, turns to the next day. And before you know it, I'm eating like I was pre-op. May not be the same amount, but it's still the same junk going in, which is going to produce eventually the same result.
Preach, right? And it's so hard because in that moment, Jason, that you were just describing, right? It's just as easy to eat this as it's just as easy to eat this, right? But that's the difference. Eating the chicken and broccoli is not going to give you that emotional release that eating this will, right? And almost every time, at least throughout my day as of late, when I go to eat, there's something emotional behind it, right? I'm stressed out. I'm worried. I'm thinking. I'm busy. Right? It's this friction, and I'm looking for a release in that friction. And instead of releasing it in other ways, I'm still going to food because that's just what seems to always be there. And in that moment, we have to make the decision. We have to let our rational brain step in. And we have to just say, look, my goal is a happy, healthy weight. And if I want that goal, I have to choose this, which means I'm not going to get this immediate release. I'm not going to get this immediate hit. But that's not what I want most. I want this now, but I want this most. And that takes a lot of effort on top of the effort that we're already doing just in our normal lives as humans, on top of the effort now and the work that we have to do with weight loss surgery. It really does come down to these tiny moments.
Another thing I wrote down was about the tracking, like you both talking about tracking and like really getting into it this week. And I think for a lot of people, there's like, I mean, even my clients, like before surgery, whenever I'm talking to them, they're like, do I have to keep a food diary? And I'm like, oh yeah. I know it sucks, but it doesn't have to be forever. Like it's just another one of those tools that you have. So you feel a little stressed, you feel a little like you got the wonky wheel. Okay, I'm going to spend this week tracking everything just to discover what's happening. I mean, I would do the same thing. Like, oh, I've been eating 10 Hershey Kisses a day. I didn't know.
Right.
Because, and then when you start writing it down, you're like, oh, and then go to the emotion thing and you're like, oh, what's happening in my life? Like I'm stressed the hell out. And I didn't even realize it because I've just been like covering it up with the chips or the cookies or the whatever. I mean, you could be covering it up with Quest protein chips,
Right.
like,
Oh, dude, that was the discovery I made. I bought those crackers at Costco, and my brain instantly was like, these are magic crackers. They're keto, they're low carb, they don't count for anything. And then when I actually ate them, I was like, oh my God, this snack was 300 calories and carbs and fat. And I was like, oh my God, food marketers have made me believe that food is magical. I mean, it's just like, this is why the scale and I are angry at each other. Like, oh my God. And I had to give myself some space and grace. I had to literally go, okay, whoa, marketing.
Yeah.
Wow. Whoever came up with this, amazing, right? And I had to just acknowledge that people make billions of dollars a year learning how to make me think that. And they're very good at it because whoop, they made me think it. But I also have to acknowledge that I am a rational brain, and when I become a better student of nutrition, right? When I learn and listen and apply, I can use that learning to fight back against all of that marketing. So, right, understanding that has been huge for me this week. And the other thing that I really had to like get mad at myself about, and I say that lovingly, is today for breakfast and lunch. I forget what I had for breakfast, but for lunch, I had these chicken skewers from Costco and little cucumbers, right? It was delicious. It looked very nice in the bowl. I was very excited. It was very filling. It was wonderful. But I thought, I wonder how much time it's actually going to take me to figure out the macros of this. Y'all, it was like 30 seconds and I weighed it. I could not believe it. I was literally yelling at myself because I was like, April, why have you been waiting to do this for so long? This literally took 30 seconds out of your day. I got out my food scale. I put on a clear bowl. I zeroed it out. I put in just a visual chicken of what I wanted to eat. I scanned the package and I entered it. And I was like, oh my God, this is literally how easy, like to the gram. And then I did it with cucumbers. And literally 1 minute later, my meal was totally tracked, and I could go enjoy it. And I was just like, I have been telling myself these sweet little lies about tracking for all of these years because I just didn't want to face it. I wanted to say that it was something I could never do. It was something I wanted to tell myself, oh no, this is too big. I was lying to myself the entire time.
but did it give you freedom? Like it almost sounds like it, instead of being like a punishment, it gave you freedom to be like, you said, now I'm going to go enjoy my meal. Like,
yes. And it has not quite given me freedom, but what it has done is it has showed me a path to freedom. I'm not there yet, right? Because my macros are still not aligned to my goals. So I'm not there yet. But yesterday for lunch, I had half an avocado and some cucumbers and some chicken and some other things, right? It was a delicious meal. But after I tracked it, I very quickly realized, oh my gosh, there are way more calories in that avocado than what I ever imagined. And you and Sam and all the people we've been talking to this month, all of a sudden came flooding into my brain in a very loving way. And it was like, it's because fat is more dense calorically than these other things. And I was like, oh my God, literally, I keep telling people, I feel like I'm in a sci-fi movie and I'm like standing at that clear thing and things are swooshing in and I'm grabbing it. I'm like, oh my God, this is it's like the mind, all that kind of stuff. But finally it's clicking, even though I've heard it, read it, seen it, done it, talked about it. We've done these things for years, high school, right? Yeah. They presented this. It made no sense for whatever reason until this very moment. And no, in no way I'm an expert. I'm at the very surface level of this understanding. But just having the power of those numbers and the hot minute to literally go, oh, that avocado was 170 calories and your cucumbers were 10. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Another thing that popped in my head.
but
Oh, you said like, you're talking about labels and marketing and how like food is not magic. And I was like, oh, but it is. It was magic for Jason last week or this week when he did like broccoli and chicken thighs and measured it. And like, yeah.
It blows my mind that it can be so deceptive and yet so eye-opening at the same time. Right. And that is so true, Jason, because it was magical for me too this week for all of the reasons, but especially for you, because you're realizing these things.
yeah, no, definitely. And it's one of those things where you kind of you become the Wizard of Oz in this. You make your own magic. You can either do what you can do the right way and it can magically work for you in the positive, or you can do like I've been doing and shoot and holler shit, and all the bad things happen because you're like, I'm not really gonna track it, I'm just gonna wing it. And then things kind of derail. But the difference between, kind of like the tracking aspect of things and the emotional eating side of things, it's the control among the chaos. You take the one thing you can control and you just hang on to it, and you're just kind of out there in the wind like, oh, I sure hope I don't get blown away. And that's the part of it. So you can either control the chaos of, I'm going to track this and I'm going to make this work for me, and essentially you're making your meals your bitch in that way, because you're like, I'm going to do this the right way because I can, because now I have the knowledge, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it this way. Or you can take the control of the emotions and say, well, I can control this one thing in my life, and that's to eat all the banana pudding in my stomach a whole. And you go off the other way. So, I mean, you've got a fork in the road. It's just you have to choose the chaos you want to control.
Dude, I just had the biggest freaking epiphany when you said that, Jason. Okay, all the work that we've done with Wendy and Laura and Christy and all of the experts that we've talked to in Barry Nation about this, Rodolfo, right? We can't replace, we can't just pull the bridge away and expect that we will cross the river, right? We have to replace the bridge at the same time, right? We can't have nothing there.
Right.
What you're talking about is when we finally feel that tracking and understanding nutrition is not chaos, we can't get rid of what we're using food for, because you're right, we can't deal in chaos, right? And what you just said perfectly describes the feeling that I'm feeling right now when it comes to tracking. That bridge is not built. I'm in chaos in both places, right? I don't understand tracking and macros like I should, and it's stressing me out and it's causing a little bit of chaos. So my response to that is, I don't quite get this, but I get this, and this is safe. So I'm going to keep doing this, but I'm going to record it, right? It's like every time I do that, it's replacing a plank in that bridge. It's taking out the old version and it's putting in the new one. And I'm going to do this board by board. That's how I'm going to get to this place of freedom. Oh my God. Oh my God, but you're so right. It's chaos.
I wonder if that 30 seconds of tracking that will become shorter, is that enough time for you to, that's that little second of time to make your brain stop and decide which way am I going to go.
It is, because literally now today was very busy. It was conference work, it was a lot, and I was eating quickly, but even between the quickness, I was able to track. But what I noticed, all of a sudden, I saw something else on the app and it was like, oh, it's telling me that my next meal should be 400 calories. And my brain was like, oh, so I have to figure out how to spend that in a way that's balanced. And then I was off and running again. But just in that 30 seconds, I was able to pick up some data. So my brain has got some numbers up here and it's trying to crunch it and figure it out. And when I have more than 30 seconds, I can sit down and I can look at that tracker and I can really start to piece these things together. So maybe what I've done is I've replaced the board. I haven't nailed it down yet. That's okay. The board is there, right? And the thing that I also am really starting to realize is, okay, let's say that a wind picks up and it knocks the board into the river and the board's gone. It's okay. The bridge is not fallen. I still have the bridge that I can cross. I just need to take a step, or I need to go get another board, go track that meal again, go do something like that again. And if I have the time, I can nail that board down. I can really understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And by doing that, you're so right, Jason. I'm lowering the chaos on, I don't know what's going on. No. I know what's going on. So I don't need to do that because I have the data to help me make an informed decision. Right. And even if, and again, Rob keeps coming back in my brain too, because the other thing I always say, if I'm in a very dark place, there's a couple food items that will save me from that dark place: Cheetos and Cadbury eggs. I don't know why. Those are it. And it's Cadbury egg season and I love them and I'm going to enjoy them. And I have Cadbury eggs in my house right now and I've been enjoying a handful every day and I'm tracking them. And every day I get to the end of my day and I'm like, oh, I really want some Cadbury eggs or whatever, the middle of the day. I go and grab 9, that's the serving, scan it. It's been okay, right? Like most days I'm staying within them. Some days I'm not, and it's the Cadbury eggs that bust me out. Okay, whatever. But I know that. I didn't know that before. Before I was just eating handfuls and handfuls and handfuls and whoop, chaos.
It makes me think of like we talked about balance across the bariatric lifespan, let's say from a week post-op to 15 years post-op, but also you want to balance your life, your happiness. Like when people ask me, oh, I want to get to my goal weight, or I got there and I gained 15 pounds and how do I get back? My question every time is like, how does this weight feel? Like, can you balance your happiness and you're enjoying life and you're having the Cadbury eggs with this number on the scale that's stable? Mm-hmm. And if that feels good, screw the goal weight. Like, but if it feels bad, then okay, we'll make some steps and we'll get back to that happy spot. But balance, it doesn't have to be perfect meal every time, every day. You got to figure out like the balance of your happiness with your bariatric diet. Like where do you feel good?
Yeah, we're going after the law of average here. It's not about every single day. You got, we got a long race to run. You can't don't burn yourself out in the first 20 feet. You got to be ready to go the distance. And April, actually going a little bit further on your metaphor for the bridge and building back those boards, the best part about that is if the wind blows and knocks one of your boards into the river, you don't go anywhere. You stay in the spot that you were in as you collect more data to build the next board out. You don't have to take steps back. You don't have to turn around and run to the other end of the bridge. Stay right where you are. You're in a perfect spot to sit there and gain a little bit more data, and then start building your bridge from that point. You don't have to lose any ground. You're just going to be where you are, because the data is what's the most important thing in that. Because like when you go to the doctor, the first thing, and you tell them that you're not feeling well, the first thing they want to do is let's run some tests. Let's gain some data. You wouldn't just go to the doctor and go, I don't feel well. You need to give me, fix me, but I'm not taking any tests. Like, it's not going to work that way. You have to have the data. Like, no, we don't want to take the tests. Does it suck? Yes. But at the end of the day, like, we don't know what's wrong with us. We can't fix it if we don't have the data. And that's exactly what tracking is. Tracking, we understand that for some people, tracking is triggering. Tracking, is not the most fun. Tracking sucks. I hate tracking. Tracking is awful. So, but at the same time, if I'm not happy with where I'm at currently, in order to make positive steps to get out of where I am currently, I have to have the data. It's like Jeanie said, it's not going to be forever. It doesn't have to be something that you do for the rest of your life. But if you get a couple of good weeks in, we're good.
Yep. Well, and we know the power of mindset. I've been talking myself out of tracking for years. I've been saying really horrible things about tracking, right? And my mindset really needs to shift. I need to start telling myself tracking is a tool that I'm going to use for the time being to reach my happy, healthy weight. Because we talk about this all the time, Jeanie, and the three of us have talked about this, right? Our happy, healthy weight is the weight that we're willing to work to maintain. Right? It's that number that makes us metabolically well, and it's the number that we don't mind putting the work in for. And I don't know exactly what that weight. I've seen a low number, and I really liked that number. I felt really good there. I had more mobility, even though it was like 7 pounds or 11 pounds, whatever it is, right? I mean, it doesn't seem like a huge number, but it's the number where I knew the difference. And that's the number I need to get back to. So if I want to live at that happy, healthy weight, tracking is going to be a tool that I will use, and will use with positive intent, not with negative intent. And I need to really harness the power of not using that all or nothing mindset, right? Which is what you were talking about, Jason, right? No, I'm not going back. No, I'm not exiting the bridge. No, I'm not, right? That one board does not mean that this bridge is now faulty. It doesn't mean any of that.
You didn't fall in.
I didn't fall in, right? Like, oh my God. It's just, it is amazing to me that how many tools we really need in our toolbox, and how often we need multiple tools to do one job. Like tracking for me is going to require multiple tools to do one job. And I just think we don't realize that. We think that surgery is the one thing.
And I was just thinking, like, tracking is also like a Swiss Army knife, like a multi-tool, because, okay, it's helping you stay on track, but you even mentioned, like, it's helping you come up with other meal ideas or other balances. Like maybe tomorrow you're going to do a quarter of avocado, a little more cucumber, because you learned from tracking that proportions needed to change. Or you just are trying to build a good balanced meal, and you're like, oh, look, I never thought to put these two things together, but they're great. Yeah.
Yep. Well, and the thing that I did want to ask you, Jeanie, that my brain went to this because all of a sudden now I'm thinking about macros in terms of their caloric density. Who am I? I don't know. Right. But in a balanced meal, like if we really want to get technical, and I get the visual is very simple. And I do agree with Sam, right? It's not that complicated, or it's not that deep, right? Like we shouldn't have to be so concerned with eating, but I'm the type of person where I need to know all of it before I can decide what's going to be best for me. So if I'm dividing my plate like that, and 25% is carbs and 25% are fat, and 50% is protein, I could be going under or busting over my macro goals, because if a quarter of my plate is avocado or is something heavy, right, that's going to have more calories to it.
So the picture I have is half protein. So 50% protein, 25% starch or carb, 25% vegetable. So the plate itself doesn't have any fat written on it or shown. Because it's going to be like melted butter or dressing or olive oil, or, I mean, we're talking about avocado, that'd be a little different, but, because fat is so dense and flavorful, a little goes a long way. So you can kind of think of it as your, like, I don't know, topping, garnish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been thinking about this totally wrong. I wasn't hearing you. I was hearing what I wanted to hear. So it's protein, starch,
carb, vegetable.
And then, okay.
So it doesn't really work maybe for breakfast sometimes, but it's an easy way to do lunch and dinner.
But that helps my brain though, because the fat is the flavor additive, right? It's not a quarter of it. It's okay.
It's not it's not the volume. Yeah.
Yes.
I added an extra quarter to my plate for the fat.
That could be why, again, eye-opening. This could be why I'm fighting with my scale right now.
It was
Oh my
like, I'm more
goodness.
of a 125% person.
I need that
This is
different
not-
plate.
Exactly. Yeah. I go all in. I am extra to the nth degree.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Jeanie, will you elaborate too a little bit more on the whole day, right? So if my brain instantly goes to, okay, so can I do all of my starches at one time? And then can I do all of my, carbs at another, or right? Because I think I know your answer, and that is these
No.
macros really work in concert when you eat them together.
It's,
Better things happen.
yeah, I like that. Better things happen. If you want to feel your best all day long, it's nice to have a representative from each macro at each eating time. But it doesn't have to be 3 items. Like breakfast. Let's say you do Greek yogurt and berries. You could do a 2% Greek yogurt. You've got protein, you've got fat, you put your berries on there, you've got fruit, you got carbohydrate. So there's your 3 macros in a little portable breakfast. So that one was great. But if you just had the yogurt, you might end up at 10 o'clock being like, man, I need something. I want something. And that's, what's available in an office setting at 10 a.m.
Donuts.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe lunch is going to look a little different than dinner because you packed raw vegetables. So they're going to take up more space, but you still have some protein, and you did some hummus or some ranch dressing. And then dinner might be a little more protein, a little less vegetable because you're doing a cooked vegetable, but you still have the representative. You still have protein, carb, fat at every eating time.
Yes. Okay. That makes way more sense.
Part of
makes
that
way more
balance.
sense. Yes.
You want to
part
go
of
too
that
heavy on one and not too heavy on the other.
Yeah.
And pizza just popped in my head because I was just thinking there's going to be times where you don't have all the control that you prefer to have. So like a kid's party, there's pizza, you're hungry. Well, we got carbohydrate for sure. We've got some fat for sure. And we've got some protein for sure. But maybe you need more than a slice to feel full. That's when I would grab some vegetable, grab an apple, grab a salad, grab a cucumber, so that feels more balanced,
Yes. Yeah. Well, and again, pizza, I think, is a color, right? Pizza is one color. It's pizza. And if I'm only eating that, then I know that in an hour or two, I'm going to be hungry again. And, this week, what I've been also really focusing on is I want a little bit more color. I don't just want protein. Like protein, I think is like chicken. Like protein's it's whatever the color of chicken is, that's it. And if I look at my bowl or if I look at my plate and it's one color, I'm not I'm not eating a balanced meal. So I've been adding in cucumbers. I've been adding in avocado, right? I've been adding in tomatoes, just things that give it a little bit of color. And it's not only helped my satiation, but it's also helped bring a little joy back into my eating, because that's very enticing to look at. It's bright, it's vibrant, it's crunchy, it's fresh. It's all of these flavors that I was missing beforehand. And I crave that. My body wants that. My soul wants that. My eyes want to see that. It wants to see some color, and it was missing.
Yeah. I think I'll have to ask Laura about this. And my observations, I see a monthish after surgery, I feel like people go through a little depression. And I think part of it is because, similar to what you said, it's like, I'm eating deli turkey again and a protein drink. Like, yeah.
It's grief, it's loss, it's
I was gonna say, I was like, that's the other part of it is, you're grieving the old you and you're not able to fix it with the food that you used to be able to. So that's part of it. And looking at the bland stuff that you're forced to eat post-op really sucks.
Mm-hmm. So when you can add the variety and the color, do it.
Oh my gosh.
My balance for pizza is to do thinner crust so you can eat more of it. And then the beauty of the part is once that pizza's gone, there's more pizza left because you can't eat all the pizza like you used to be able to. So it's an awful circle. That's why I can't do pizza like I used to do pizza, because I go nuts.
No, it's a road that does not lead to good things for me either. No.
Yeah.
So Jeanie, if somebody's starting out, let's say that they're starting to come out of kind of the beginner bariatric stage, right? Maybe they're month like 3, 4, 5. Where do you recommend somebody in that stage starts to build a balanced bariatric meal?
So hopefully you already, like we were talking about your fats, like you probably already have your protein in your fat. Like maybe you do a scrambled egg with butter. Add a little fruit, like make your little scrambled egg and maybe you have 2 cute little strawberries. Awesome. Or you've been doing your turkey and cheese roll-ups. You got some fat in the cheese, you got your protein. Maybe you do have, that's where you put in your slice of cucumber. Or I love to put turkey around a carrot and eat. That's really fun. So you get some crunch, get some color. But just adding that little vegetable that you've been missing to the protein you already have will start to build your balance. Or if you're not yet to that capacity of egg and or turkey and, start to put it in. So you make your scrambled eggs, put your peppers and onions in there, or cook your mushrooms and put it in there, your spinach, or maybe it's just lettuce that you do in the turkey. Or I'm trying to think of a good dinner one.
When I was starting to eat again, it was vegetables for me. I would just do a little bit of cauliflower and a little bit of broccoli, or I would have a salad, quote unquote. It was literally like one piece of lettuce and something else, anything to break it up. But it was a delicious and nutritious way, right, for me to kind of reintroduce some color into what was just protein beforehand. And I think we get nervous about like, oh, it's, but it's okay. Just try one thing, right? I picked a color, right? Yeah, pick a color, pick one color, and then strive to add that one color into your diet in a way that seems appealing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't stress yourself out. Pick a color and just go forth. So, what about somebody that's in Jason's and I, recovery or stage, or even further out, right? If you're 5, 10, 15 years out, and all of a sudden you're looking at the scale and it's going in a direction you don't want it to, where should you start?
Tracking. And so I'll do a little self-promotion here. I have a nutrition self-assessment that I give people. And the reason I like it is it's no busting on MyFitnessPal or lose it, but it is not that. You do not have to sit and do this all the time. But all you do is just write it down. Like, I'm not going to see it. No one's going to see it. Write it down, all of it. And then there's a little guide that's like, okay, we're going to go back and I want you to circle everything that's a protein. Okay. I want you to put a star over everything that's a carbohydrate. I want you to put a square over everything that's a protein product, like a bar or a shake. So then you can look back and you're not just looking at the words, and you can see the pattern of how you're eating, and pretty quick, like see where your changes are, and where your opportunities are for improvement, without like seeing, oh my gosh, 500 calories or, yes, 20 grams of sugar. Like, you just have to see cute little symbols.
I think you sent it to me and it's fascinating. It's awesome. It was a it was a whole new way of looking at that. And I think I did it for one day and it was like, oh my God, that was when I was like, oh, this is all carbs. Like, I'm eating all, and that was even before I realized that, like, yogurt, like some yogurts are simple carbs too. And then you're like, oh my God, okay, this is all carb. I'm eating all carb. It was really cool. Yeah. I highly recommend that people reach out to you, Jeanie, to get that assessment, because it really was eye-opening. Right. And it's important to know too that tracking can be done in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be on an app. It can literally be a sheet of computer paper that you're just taking a note of what you're eating. We can even use our phones and take a picture of what we're eating, right? Just recording everything that we are eating and drinking in one day can be a very powerful tool that we can use to start
It
understanding.
makes changes. Like it, you don't have to do anything. If you start writing down what you're eating, things will change. Like
Yes.
you will, yeah,
Yes. Oh,
it's kind of
absolutely.
amazing.
Right. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, Jason, do you have any final thoughts on this conversation? Are you leaving with something new?
Yeah, no, definitely. Just kind of building on the things that I was already thinking I needed to do anyway, just kind of further cemented what my plates need to look like versus what they've been looking like. And yeah, I'm definitely going to, plates are going to start looking a lot different come this weekend. So I'm super excited. I'm actually excited to go to the store now with kind of a different view of what my cart needs to look like, so that, you know, when I get home and kind of restock my shelves, now I'm going to know what my plates are going to look like too. So
Yeah. Well, and I'm very much looking forward to you and I. We get to see each other once in April and then once again in May. And I'm really excited to take a bits on this. I know both of us have a goal to be lower, to be at a lower weight when we see each other at both of those events. And I'm just really excited to continue to talk with you to see how we're doing it, right? To check in with each other, because we all know we need this accountability, we need this community, right, to make these changes. And Jeanie, we're so thankful that you are such a present voice in our community, and that you're so open and honest and just willing to give your time to help us understand this, because it is confusing, it is hard, this is new, we're learning how to eat, right? We're learning about nutrition really for the first time with with a renewed sense of urgency. Like, we really want to know this information, and we're just so thankful that you are here for us and to support us, and that you are an expert in Berry Nation, because the supports that you've been leading
Thank
this
you.
month. Oh my gosh, dude, those Q&As, the chats, the classes, they're amazing.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me be a part of this. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Jeanie, is there one thing that you would like to leave people with when it comes to eating a balanced bariatric life?
I think you have to determine what balance means for you, because it can, you know, we're looking at balanced meals, we're looking at balance and how much effort, we're looking at balance in the seasons, like your Cadbury eggs. So I think a balanced bariatric plate is going to change, but the important thing is that you're looking for it, like you're looking for where your balance is.
That's a really good point, and I appreciate you saying that, right? And we don't know what balance is until we're teetering, right? So just because you're going up and down and doing this, it doesn't mean that you're not off balance. It means that you're working hard to find that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, dude, this conversation was like mind blowing for me on a lot of different levels. We so appreciate your time. Jeanie, where can they find you or follow you?
Sure. So on Instagram, I'm Bari Success RD, BARI Success RD. Website's Bariatric Success RD. And I'm Jeanie Reed Boyer on Facebook. So all the places, or on Berry Nation.
I was going to say, if you are a member of Berry Nation, you will have access to Jeanie on a lot of different levels and many different opportunities. She's been hosting these awesome like nutritional Q&A. So every week she's going live in the community and she's talking about a specific macro. These have also been recorded, you guys, so they live in our on-demand video library. So if you're a member, you can access them 24/7. They're there for you. You can ask Jeanie a question. There's message boards. There's all kinds of things. So if you are looking to really kind of deep dive into macros and continue this education that we've been doing this month, highly recommend that you do become a member of Berry Nation. There's a 14-day free trial because we know that our support might not be right for you. So we want to give you enough time to see if it is a good fit for you before you really commit to a membership there. So if you're interested, you can just direct message us or head to our website. It's just www.berrynation.com, and we'll pass that information along. But really, if you have a question about this, if you want to explore working with Jeanie one-on-one, if you want to see what she's all about, visit her in all the places. And if you're having a difficult time finding her, just message us or send us an email and we will point you in her direction. All right, my friends, I think we did it. Jeanie, again, thank you for your time and your expertise. You were amazing and we appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Jason, my friend, you want to take us out?
Yes, ma'am. Just want to thank you guys so much for continuing to support us in all the ways, liking, sharing, subscribing, telling friends to tell friends to tell friends, because we would not be able to do what we do without you guys helping to support us, and helping support you guys is supporting ourselves. So we appreciate that so much. Do not forget to leave us ratings and reviews on your favorite podcast players, as well as our YouTube channel. And on the Anchor app, you can leave us a voice message, which we can incorporate into further episodes of the podcast. So that's just another way for you to assist us and to get your voice heard, because our community is amazing, and we love to hear from you guys as much as possible. So don't forget to hit us up there. And then don't forget, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we will see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeanie.
Bye-bye.